now, pick up the step, your left, your right, your left.
Your left, your right, now pick up the step, your left, your right, your left.
Begin our ceremony, our dedication ceremony today. I welcome everybody and thank you for coming. My name is Colonel Bob Driscoll. I'm the chairman of the Melrose Veterans Advisory Board. With us today is Congresswoman Catherine Clark from the United States House of Representatives. From the Massachusetts State House, we have Senator Jason Lewis and Representative Kate Hipper-Garabedian. From the city of Melrose, we have Mayor Paul Broder, Councilor Jen Grigoritis, Councilor Jeffrey McNaught, Councilor Mark Garafay, Councilor Sean McMaster, Councilor Leila Miglarelli. From the Melrose School Committee, we have Chairman Ed O'Connell and Jen McAndrew. We also have with us this morning Mayor Gail Inferno, and now members of the Veterans Advisory Board. We have our Veteran Service Officer, Karen Burke, Jim Keene, Jim Machette, Scott Forbes, Leo Bedreau, Dan O'Shea, Marie Ryan, Ann Hackett, and Lisa Lloyd. We also have with us today the commander of the Lieutenant Norman Post 1506, Gary Brown. Also, we have Fire Chief Ed Kaliner and members of the Melrose Fire Department. Also, I'm honored to have members from my medical unit from the 102nd Medical Group. Thank you all for attending. By a show of hands, I'd like to acknowledge the Vietnam veterans in the crowd. Thank you. Part of the mission of the Melrose Veterans Advisory Board is to never forget. We never want to forget our service members, especially those that were killed in action. We've set up chairs to remind you all that they are with us here today. James Dutton, Army. Harold Kirtle, Air Force. Michael DeProfio, Marines. Gardner Brewer, Air Force. Richard Norton, Marines. David Bingham, Marines. Stephen Sullivan, Marines. Thomas Brennan, Army. Scott Anderson, Army. Kenneth Ellis, Army. Carlton Miller, Navy. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge all the veterans in the crowd. If you could raise your hand to be acknowledged. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start with the singing of our national anthem by Caroline De La Sola, Michaela Gallego, and Elena Samard.
The dawn's early light was so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. At this time, I'm happy to have a fellow Air Force veteran, Vietnam veteran, Mike Nacito. Mike is a member of Lieutenant Norman VFW Post 1506, who will give the invocation. I ask everyone to please stand and remove your cover.
Everybody uncover. Nothing is really ended until it is forgotten, such as the 50 years plus years ago that the war in Vietnam has ended. Whatever is kept in memory still endures and is still quite real, and many of us still here left remembering the veterans of yesterday to whom we dedicate this area of reflection. Let us bow our heads as we gave thanks to our Heavenly Father for the records of the dead and of the past, which brings us inspiration and courage to our next generation. We thank you for the lessons taught by dedications to events such as this. Bless this reflection area to all who pause in this place, reminding them of the life well lived, quicken their response to the evil, continuing the call to unselfish service to our great nation. Also, let us remember the 11 Melrosians listed on our Vietnam Memorial on the other side of the pond. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. At this time, we will have a welcome speech from the Mayor of Melrose, Donna Paul Roder.
Thank you, Colonel Driscoll. I can't tell you how good it is to see all of you here today, and what an honor it is to be able to speak on behalf of and lead a city that honors its veterans not just today but every day. And I want to take a moment to thank Colonel Driscoll and his unit, because the service that we sometimes think of is warfighting and peacekeeping. But since the advent of COVID last March, Colonel Driscoll and his unit have been deployed throughout the Commonwealth to help us, help our citizens, particularly helping our residents at our soldiers' homes in Holyoke and Chelsea to get through this. And we all owe them very much a debt of gratitude today. It's been quite a year, and I've been thinking a lot over the past few weeks about veterans and their service, and it strikes me that the amazing thing about our veterans and those who currently serve is that they all take an oath. And they take an oath not to a person or a party. They take an oath to the Constitution. And what that really means when you think about it, when you think about the preamble of the Constitution, it starts out, "We the people." They take an oath to the people of the United States of America. And what the manifestation of that oath is being bigger than an individual, contributing in whatever way you can to a cause that's greater than yourself, to a cause that has endured for over 225 years and continues to this day. And it is that common sense of purpose and that common sense of mission and recognition of their sacrifice and that of their families is what really makes today a very special day. So to each and every one of you and your families, I want to thank you on behalf of the city for your service. And in particular, today, this memorial reflection and remembrance, I think it's important to particularly speak about our Vietnam veterans, because we all know the story. It's getting to the point, I suppose, where our young people in particular know it from the history books as opposed to lived experience. But what we know is for the first time in our history, those of you that made it home were not treated the way you deserved to be treated. You weren't treated with respect. You weren't given the appropriate welcome home. Some of you I know were reluctant to wear your uniforms in public when you got home because of the way certain members of the public would treat you. Happily, I think, those days are long in the past. So for those of you who did have that experience, I want to say on behalf of a grateful city, and a grateful Commonwealth, and a grateful nation, thank you very much for your service. And I know this is a day to remember the living and their contributions to our country. But every day, particularly Veterans Day, obviously Memorial Day, the 11 gentlemen represented here, most of them very, very young, should always be in our memory. And with that, again, I want to thank each and every one of you for stepping forward and showing your respect, showing your leadership by being here. And I look forward to seeing you together again, when we can all get together in a more intimate fashion, I guess, and being able to do a more traditional ceremony. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we'll have a Veterans Day message from the Melrose City Council. The liaison to the Veterans Advisory Board is Councilor Sean McMaster.
Thank you, Colonel Driscoll. Special thanks also to Lieutenant Colonel Burke and to the members of the Melrose Veterans Advisory Board. On behalf of President Grigoritis and my colleagues from the Melrose City Council, I'd like to thank everyone who was part of making today possible. We wouldn't be here commemorating this memorial were it not for Colonel Driscoll's vision and leadership, the supporting role of the Veterans Advisory Board, the encouragement and assistance of Mayor Broder, and the commitment and hard work of the Melrose Department of Public Works. It is such an honor to be here to take part in this ceremony as we welcome this latest addition to the Knoll. Melrose is unique in how we honor our veterans. In fact, we stand apart from other communities in terms of the nature and breadth of our memorials. Not only are they beautiful in design, but the careful thought behind each one, the intricate details, the modest symbolism, and their common tenor adorn this knoll in perfect synchrony. A poignant network of shrines to the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. This new memorial, a quiet reflection area, is unique in that it honors not just those who died for our freedom, but every service member who fought for that noble cause. In Ulysses, the poet Tennyson wrote, "I am part of all that I have met." Perhaps veterans know the sentiments of these words better than anyone, for they have met hardship, they have met anguish, they have met injury, and they have met ineffable loss. Not because of the natural misfortunes of human life, but because they answered the call to put our lives before theirs, and thereby assume the lasting labor of that selfless act. One of the realities of war is that although history selectively recalls the battles and heroics of some, it does not capture the very real impacts of war as personified by the experience of the individual. Likewise, history is incapable of preserving the memories so deeply embedded in the minds of those who served. Whether they be memories of misfortune on one hand or camaraderie on the other, memories, like old soldiers, are subject to mortality. And because we recognize that these memories will one day expire, we assert today that the service and sacrifice of the Melrose veteran lives on in perpetuity. Their names indelibly etched into the stones that blanket this hillside in the shape of our sacred flag, guarded by this majestic tree like a sentinel on watch. Referencing battlefield heroics in one of his most famous poems, Tennyson posed the rhetorical question, when can their glory fade? In Melrose, we resoundingly answer that question today. For as long as we remain committed to remembering the service and sacrifice of our veterans, their glory shall live on forever.
Here in Melrose, we're extremely lucky to have many veterans organizations, to include 2 VFWs, a Friday Veterans Club, an Emblem Club, Melrose Veterans Memory Project, the Middle School Operation Club, and the Veterans Advisory Board. At this time, for the Veterans Day address, we will have a member of the Veterans Advisory Board, a Vietnam veteran, as well as a Navy veteran, Jim Keene.
Morning. On January 1st, 1960, the decade of the 60s would begin. We'd be listening to Connie Francis sing, we'd be listening to the Beach Boys, and Dwight Eisenhower was our president. A young, handsome senator would run for presidency that year and would be elected. He would be tested with the Berlin Wall the following year and tested with the Cuban Missile Crisis after that. We came within a hair's breadth of total annihilation in a nuclear exchange. As you stood there on January 1st, 1960, you had no way of knowing that you stood at the precipice of probably the most destructive or destructive decade in American history. During this time, we're going to assassinate that president. We're going to assassinate his brother. And we're going to assassinate a minister from Atlanta that told us what his dreams were on the the Lincoln Memorial. And overreaching all of these events, the riots, was the Vietnam War. At that time, in the 50s and 60s, every young man went to service. Whether after high school or after college, everyone went. It was expected. Your fathers went, your uncles went, your older brothers went. You went. And I have to say that it was the most Americanizing situation you could ever imagine. At the boot camps, at the reserve centers, at the induction centers, men and boys from every corner of this country, every religion, every race, every ethnic group, came to be a soldier, a sailor, an airman, or a Marine. And when you put your hand up to swear to your God that you would defend the Constitution, you also said you would defend the idea of America, what it stood for, who it is, who we are. And in the slow realization of young men, it dawned on you for the first time in your young lives that you were involved in something greater than yourself, being asked to do something greater than yourself. And you stood there in those training centers and realized that basically you were the heir to approximately 200 years of an epic heritage of the men and women who went before you and did what you were going to do. And in time, you would become a small part of that heritage, their epic history. During that time, the 60s, Vietnam started off slowly. A few hundred advisors in the early 60s, and the real start of the escalation occurred in the mid-60s. To the point where a few thousand and then tens of thousands were being ordered in. At that time, everyone had orders, or waiting orders, or their unit was tagged to go over. And when you went, you got in country. It was called in country then. You went in country, and the young man, you found out this is not the grand adventure you had envisioned. This was a war. And in that war, a couple of things happened that were significant from a witness point of view. You got to witness very, very, very ordinary men and women do extraordinarily courageous things beyond your belief. And you also saw these very ordinary men and women do incredibly kind displays of kindness. You would have been so proud of them. You as Americans would have been so proud of those men and women. Coming home, America was different and we were different. When the war was over, we count our dead. In this instance, we counted 58,267 men, 8 women who had been killed in action. As part of our tradition, we build monuments to these men and women that we can remember. And these monuments are as diverse as that boot camp population. Every ethnic group, every corner of the country. The sad part about it is that every state, county, city, and town in this country has a Vietnam Memorial. In Auburn, Lewiston, Maine, their monument has 29 names on it. Most were French Canadians. Heirs coming down from Canada to work in the mills there. In Duluth, Minnesota, there's 136 names. Almost all of them Scandinavian, who came in the last century to the Homestead Act and to work in the mines. In Choctaw Indian Reservation in Choctaw, Oklahoma, the Vietnam Memorial has 23 Choctaw Braves named on it. And they are the descendants and the survivors of the Trail of Tears. Their tribe was marched from eastern United States to center Oklahoma. 4,500 died on the way. These 23 Choctaw Braves, their monument stands next to the World War II Choctaw Braves, where 80 of their braves died, which is remarkable because the year before the U.S. entered the war, the Choctaws were not even considered U.S. citizens. In El Paso, Texas, there's 212 names of both Anglo and Mexican Americans listed. The Anglos, some can trace their heritage back to the pioneers who came to Texas to be Texas. Many of the Mexican Americans can trace their heritage back to before there was a Texas, before there was the United States. Others migrated to the area. In Winston-Salem, North Carolina, there's 41 names, 29 white men, 12 African Americans. White men, some can trace their heritage back to the Moravians, a religious group that left Germany to settle in the area to find religious freedom. The African Americans, some can trace their heritage back to being slaves brought to the area to work, plantations and farms. Come back to Massachusetts and our 11 here in Melbourne, our son. They are typical of men and women fought in Vietnam. They were so desperately young. Of the 58,278 men that died in Vietnam, 33,000 of them were 18 years of age. 18 years of age. Our 11, most were not married. Just three of them were married. And the reason we must remember these men, why we do the monuments, is because we must remember their names. After 60 years, we must remember. We must remember who they are, what they did, and that they belong to us. They belong to Melrose. They are our sons. God bless America, and God bless all who serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I invite our guest of honor, any Vietnam vets in the audience that would like to come forward and assist us with the unveiling of the monument here. thank you to our veterans. At this time, we're going to raise a flag honoring the Vietnam veterans. It's going to be raised by Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart recipient, Jim Machette. With the playing of taps by Mayor Gail Infernal. As you look at this beautiful monument, there are many examples in which we reflect, respect, and remember our Vietnam veterans, as well as all veterans. I would like to introduce our Veteran Service Officer, who is also the District Director of Veteran Services from Melrose, Wakefield, and Saugus, as well as an Air Force veteran, Lieutenant Colonel Karen Burke.
Thank you, Colonel Driscoll. I would like to thank everyone for coming today, and I'd especially like to wish our veterans a happy Veterans Day and thank you for your service. Never forget. It is so very important we never forget their service, and we must never forget the disgraceful way we as a nation treated them when they came home. There were no welcome home banners, parades, or even handshakes. Instead of embracing them and helping them heal, or even a simple thank you for their service, these men and women returned home to a divided country. Some were called baby killers, spit on, yelled at, ignored, made to feel ashamed for their service to country. Instead of being able to walk on the streets and hold their heads up proudly for serving their country, they were treated in an unthinkable way. They came home to heal the wounds war leaves and the unthinkable wounds given from their fellow Americans who treated them so poorly upon their return. We as a nation have tried to right this wrong, to make sure no other man or woman returning from serving their country has to endure what the men and women who so bravely fought in Vietnam had to endure upon their return. We as service members have all benefited from the sacrifice these men and women made. Returning servicemen and women are now regarded as heroes and thanked for their service, not having to relive the pain that was bestowed upon our Vietnam veterans. This Vietnam reflection area was designed as a place to respect, remember, and reflect. It is not designed to replace the beautiful Vietnam Memorial we have on Main Street. John Pike, who's with us here, is the designer of our beautiful memorial right across the pond. This area was designed instead to tie it into the knoll. You enter our beautiful knoll area to our World War I Memorial, Student Respect Garden, World War II Memorial, Korean Memorial, and now the Vietnam Reflection Area. Placed in line with our other memorials and overlooking the Melrose Vietnam Memorial on Main Street, it was designed to be able to sit here so people could sit here among the other memorials and look over Elk Pond at the Vietnam Memorial. To remember those we love and lost, to reflect on the toll war takes on a person's heart and soul. The benches overlooking the American flag say respect, reflect, remember. Today, the American flag consists of 13 horizontal stripes, 7 red alternating with 6 white. The stripes represent the original 13 colonies, and the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The flag is made of bricks. The building blocks of a strong America lie with the veterans who serve our country. The bricks are engravable with veterans' names, representative of the servicemen and women who have raised their hands and swore an oath to serve and protect the United States of America. The red bricks on the top list the 11 names of the Melrose men we lost in Vietnam. They are on our Vietnam Wall on Main Street. We wanted to have a place that would allow families and friends to dedicate their own bricks within a memorial for veterans in their lives. A place to come and respect, reflect, and remember. Together, even if we can't be together. The red bricks are reserved for Vietnam-era veterans. The white bricks are for all veterans. We have with us today forms to buy bricks for a veteran. We will submit them for engraving twice a year. And I wanted to also share that this memorial was designed by a fellow veteran, Iraq and Afghanistan War veteran, Master Sergeant Joseph Startup from the United States Air Force, also a member of Colonel Driscoll's team. Thank you.
At this time, I invite George Brickley up. Mr. Brickley has accompanied us on many tours of the monuments here in Melrose, and he gives the students a very good first-hand perspective of many of the members who we remember here this morning.
Thank you. I was not on the docket to speak, but when I saw the chairs, I asked Bob if I could just say a few brief words. I'm not a veteran. I didn't serve. I'm just an ordinary Melrose citizen like a lot of you. I live on Clifford Street in the Heseltine section, and I grew the house that I live in is the house that Richard Norton grew up in, and he's one of our fallen heroes here. I think of him like every day. You know, I'm wondering, did he sit at the kitchen table here or the dining room seat here? Which bedroom did he sleep in? You know, I think of him often. I grew up on Melrose Street, right across the street from Scott Andreessen. He was killed in 1969, 20 years old. I played hockey with David Bingham's brother. David Bingham, killed in Vietnam, 19, 20, 21, I'm not sure the exact ages. But I don't even have to look at the chairs. I know the names, Carlton and Sullivan. Miller, Dunton, beautiful memorial over there. If you want to hear some stories about these young gentlemen, speak with John Pike, who's here. He went to Melrose High, went right over here to Melrose High with them. So they're not just names, these are real people who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And it seems like our nation is always under attack from tyrants or dictators or evildoers that want to take our American way of living, our liberties, our freedoms. And Mr. Keene referenced John F. Kennedy, and I remember when I was a kid him saying we have to pay any price, bear any burden, meet any obstacle to assure the sanctity and safety of our liberty and our freedom. And who's going to step up and do that? And he also referenced the Vietnam War with 58,000 young men and boys. These have meaning to me, and they have meaning to everyone else. 58,000, that's like Fenway Park. Fill it up twice. That's how many 58,000 is, so it's a real tragedy. But who's going to step up and who's going to protect this great country? And it was these brave men and women on the wall in D.C. that did step up and pay the ultimate sacrifice. So I just wanted to, pay tribute to them. And just one other thing, the veterans that did come back from the horrors of war, we owe them. It's going to be difficult to repay these that have laid down their life, but the veterans that went to war, they came back. We owe them the type of America that they fought for. They're coming back with PTSD, post-traumatic. They have mental and psychological issues. We've got to give them the care they need. They have, there's 20 veterans a day that commit suicide, die by their own hand, is homeless, sleeping on the streets at night. That's unacceptable. And the VA hospitals and the health care, that needs to be upgraded and improved. Veterans should not be dying in line waiting to get care at these facilities. And tuition assistance, we need to help them assimilate back into society. My dad served in World War II, went to Boston University on the GI Bill, met my mom there, furthered his education, raised a family. I was fortunate enough to grow up here in Melrose, and I don't take that for granted, and I remember all these that came before me. So, and I know we live in a divided country, it seems like, but they went to war for all of us. We're all Americans. Democrat, Republican, white, black, gay, straight, whatever it is. We're all Americans, and they died for all of us. So that was my basic message today. Remember them. let God bless this great nation that we have, and God bless our veterans. Thank you.
This time, I ask the members of the Veterans Advisory Board, Karen Burke, Scott Forbes, Neil Boudreau, Dan O'Shea, to come forward, and Lisa Lord. As we're going to close out of our ceremony today, we have some words of gratitude to our Vietnam veterans from our members of the Veterans Advisory Board.
Between November 1, 1955 and May 15, 1975, the 9 million Americans that served in the military were not treated so nicely. When our soldiers and sailors came home from Vietnam, the welcome parties they received were quite different from the ones that we have today. While today's service members are met at the airports with families waving flags and cheers, during that time, service members were met with name-calling, jeers, and much worse. Some were volunteers, and some were drafted, but all served their nation. Today we say thank you. You raised us up.
The Vietnam War and all those who served in the war did not receive the recognition they deserved from day one. Upon returning to their country in their hometowns, they were told not to wear uniforms out in town and not to talk about their service. To this day, we are still made to recognize their service and sacrifice. We can't go back in time, but we can say for certainty that these men and women who put their lives on the line for others were true Americans. Today we say, thank you, you raised us up.
The Vietnam veterans have led the fight for today's veterans to receive help for their invisible wounds and haunting memories of wartime service. Most Vietnam veterans were told to suck it up, tough through it, but it takes a lot of energy to keep the dark thoughts at bay. Their advocacy has helped veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan heal from scars of battle. Today we say thank you. You raised us up.
Flag-draped caskets enshrouded more than 58,000, while many who lived came home physically beaten or mentally bruised. Upon reaching U.S. shores, those Vietnam veterans received no formal public welcome or recognition of service afforded veterans of previous wars. Instead, the vast majority quietly assimilated back into their communities, raised families, and used their talents and leadership skills to strengthen America. Many innovations in the business, education, and military sectors can be attributed directly to the Vietnam generation of veterans. Today we say thank you. You raised us up.
Felt proud of rehashing the war or rewriting history. Today's dedication ceremony is firmly set on honoring those who bore the pain and price of war. When asked, these veterans answered the nation's call. Some fought the war in a distant land of which most had never heard, while others were assigned to support the effort from different locations around the world. Vietnam veterans bravely pursued the goals and objectives established by our elected leaders, yet returned to a society in turmoil. He wanted to hear their stories, share their hardships, or understand their problems. Most Americans wanted the veterans, a reminder of the war, to simply disappear. Now is the time to not only remember those who gave their all during the Vietnam War, but it's also time for all Americans to fully embrace the brave men and women who returned home from Vietnam, often to shame and disgrace, by publicly thanking them with honor and dignity, as well as recognizing the sacrifices of their families. Today, we say thank you. You raised us up.
As we end our dedication today, I just want to thank those who made this beautiful space possible. Master Sergeant Joseph Startup, who built the flag. Peter P., as well as the entire DPW crew, who did all the landscaping. They did an unbelievable job to transform this space into a respectful place of honor. David DiFilippio of Woodland Memorials. David's worked with us on each of the memorials here at the Knoll. He does it at no cost to himself. I want to thank all of those who helped in our fundraising to support our veterans community. Gately Funeral Home, Marty at MG Signs, and all of those who support and attend our annual Veterans Golf Tournament. Thank you to the Mayor's Office and the City Council for their support in making this area a place of solemn reflection and respect. I also want to thank the Veterans Service Office, the Veterans Advisory Board, for their vision in making this memorial a reality. Lastly, I would like to thank our Vietnam veterans for the example they have provided us over their lifetime in and out of uniform. Words cannot thank you enough, but I hope this grand area of reflection can say what our words cannot. On behalf of the Mayor's Office, the Veterans Advisory Board, and the Veterans Service Officer, we thank you all for attending today. Happy Veterans Day.
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, the boss's boss. If 1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes, that means it could be you, your barber, your barber's barber.
Nice work.
Thanks.
You, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse.
Yes.
You, your dog walker,
On your left.
your cat jogger. Or you, your co-pilot, your co-pilot's co-pilot. While 1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes, with early diagnosis, pre-diabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand.
Janet, it's nice seeing you again. You look good, girl. Just let me know what I can do to help.
Well, to help me, she'd have to help every day. Every hour, every ouch, every time my wife calls for help. I mean, maybe she could help me make her lunch. But the crust, all the crust has to be cut off the corners. She could help me run to the doctor for the 5th time this week. Help me with the specialist and the second opinions and the painful paperwork of our paperwork. Help me deal with how hard it is seeing my wife's name on so much paperwork. But this is on me. I'm the only one who can do this, like this, for her. Besides,
Take care.
we will. Janet doesn't like her cooking anyway.
Find support for your strength. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community.
Oh, he's on fire.
Time out, guys. I'm late to dinner. My mom's gonna kill me. Catch you guys later.
Mom wants us home. Okay. Bye, guys. You guys need a ride?
Sure. Yeah. All right. How about some one-on-one?
I gotta go eat, man. Sorry, I'll see you later.